The financial system, it's basically a game with a set of rules. And those rules, like where your money lives, how long it's there, and when it gets taxed, well, they totally change how fast your money can grow. There are these legal advantages built right into the system, but nobody ever really explains them in simple terms. So in this explainer, we're going to break them down.
So let me just ask you this right up front. Are you absolutely sure you're playing by the most effective rules? Because there's a pretty good chance you've only been given half the instruction manual.
Okay, let's dive right in. Now, these aren't some kind of secret cheats or hidden loopholes. They're structural advantages available to literally anyone who understands how the whole system is designed. We're about to pull back the curtain.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basic rules of the money game. Then we'll look at where your money should live. After that, we'll get into the huge difference between owning and earning, cover some really smart strategies the pros use, and we'll wrap up with the single most powerful advantage you have: patience.
All right, first up, the rules of money. The core idea here is that the financial system isn't just one single path. Think of it like a game with two sets of instructions, and the one you follow completely changes the outcome. You see, most of us follow the path we're taught: earn money, pay your taxes, and then try to save whatever's left. But there's this whole other set of rules baked right into tax codes, banking, and how investing works. And they aren't hidden, they're just written in a different language, the language of ownership and capital.
Okay, so let's build on that. It is all about creating the right environment for your money, because where your money lives matters just as much as how much of it you have. Think of it like this. The box you decide to put your money into completely changes how the system treats it. $1,000 in a regular savings account? Well, it gets taxed on any interest, any gains. Each tax is like a little bite that slows down future growth. But that same $1,000 in a tax-advantaged account, it gets to grow for years, sometimes decades, with way less friction, which lets compounding do its real magic.
And look, this isn't an accident. These accounts exist on purpose. Governments want us to save for the long term, and companies want to encourage their employees to stick around. So the whole system is literally designed to reward money that gets invested early and is just left alone to grow. And that brings us right to employer benefits, which, let's be honest, a lot of people just see as optional paperwork. Things like stock purchase plans or 401k matches. They are not just bonuses. They are structured mathematical advantages. I mean, a company match on your retirement contribution, that's one of the only guaranteed 100% returns you will ever find in your life.
Okay, let's make this super clear. Imagine person A. They take their salary in cash, it gets taxed, and then they invest what's left over. Now, person B uses their employer's programs. They get company stock at a discount, they get their full retirement match, they start with more capital and a tax advantage from day one. Over a 30-year career, that small difference at the beginning, it blows up into a massive, life-changing gap.
All right, this next part, this is probably the single most important mental shift you can make. It's about the fundamental difference in how the system treats money you earn from labor versus money that comes from owning an asset. When you get a paycheck, your earned income is taxed immediately. Boom, taxes come out and you invest what's left. But when an asset you own, like a stock or a piece of real estate, goes up in value, that gain just compounds, untouched, until the day you decide to sell. That delay, the ability to put off the tax, that is a huge, huge advantage. So just look at this 20-year race. Person A, our earner, gets taxed every year on every raise, which kind of chips away at what they can invest. But person B, the owner, lets their assets grow and grow without that annual tax drag. Even if they start with the same amount, person B pulls way ahead simply because their money got to compound on a larger, untaxed base for a much longer time. And again, this is all by design. The system is built to incentivize people to create businesses, to invest for the long haul. So it rewards ownership with two incredibly powerful tools: time and tax flexibility.
This idea extends to how businesses work too. As an individual, you get paid, then you pay taxes, and then you pay for your expenses. A business, on the other hand, gets to deduct legitimate expenses, tools, software, maybe some travel, before taxes are calculated. This simple shift means more money stays inside the system, where it can be reinvested to grow even more. So now that we've got the fundamentals down, let's get into some of the more advanced but still totally accessible strategies that really leverage the structure of the financial system in some powerful ways. Most of us think the only way to get cash from an investment is to sell it, right? Well, what if you didn't have to? There's a strategy called buy, borrow, die, and it's all about accessing the value of your assets without actually creating a taxable event. The die part is about how assets can get passed on to heirs, but for now, let's just focus on the buy and borrow parts. So here's the play-by-play. First, you buy and hold an asset that's going up in value. Then, instead of selling it to get cash, you take out a low-interest loan using that asset as collateral. You get the cash you need, but, and here's the magic part, you never actually sold the asset. So no capital gains tax gets triggered and your original investment can just keep on growing. You're not liquidating, you're just unlocking liquidity. Real estate has another one of these fascinating advantages called depreciation. Now this one is a little weird, but stick with me. The tax code basically pretends that buildings are slowly wearing out over time, so it lets owners claim a paper loss every single year. This is incredible because in the real world, that same property might be bringing in positive cash flow from rent and actually going up in market value. Okay, let's move to our final section. And honestly, this might be the most important one. We're talking about the power of patience, which isn't just a virtue in the world of finance, it's an active structural strategy. The entire system is pretty much built around something called realized gains. In plain English, that just means you typically only owe taxes on your investments when you actually sell them. As long as you don't sell, that asset can grow for years, decades even, and no tax event is triggered. This gives you, the owner, complete control over when you pay tax. And that's a luxury that people who earn a salary simply do not have. So let's just boil this all down. What are the key takeaways here? First, patience isn't just waiting around. It's a real strategy. Second, focusing on ownership is way more powerful than focusing only on income. Third, understanding that delaying tax is basically a superpower gives you immense control. And finally, never, ever forget that where your money lives is a critical part of the whole equation. And I want to be crystal clear about this. None of this is about tax evasion or doing anything shady. It's about tax efficiency. The whole goal is just to understand the rules of timing and control, so you can let your capital work for you as effectively as possible for as long as possible. Look, these rules are baked into the system we all operate in every single day. They are designed to reward patience, ownership, and strategic thinking. So the real question isn't about the rules themselves. The real question is, now that you have a better look at the full instruction manual, how are you going to play the game?